Olympic 400 metre hurdles champion. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, thank you.
Just to open up, I just want to pick your brains on something that you mentioned at your keynote speech here at the High Performance Conference. You mentioned that when you had qualified for the US Olympic trials, that you guaranteed the principal of your college at Morehouse, Atlanta, that you would become an Olympic champion and a world record holder. Is that level of single-mindedness and determination essential before you can become an Olympic champion?
You have to believe in yourself. Going to the Olympic Games is no joke. You're going up against the best people, the best minds, and people who are some of the most tenacious, dedicated people in the world. And I think that was probably why I was able to win for 9 years, 9 months, 9 days, because I really believed that I could do it. And it was a belief that was rooted in science and technology and was housed inside my body. I absolutely believed that that was what I was going to do. And every day when I got up, I did, from eating the right things to getting the right amount of rest to not going to parties to performing on the track. Everything I did was for that purpose. And so I believed it. I mean, that was what life was about for those 4 months between my first race and the Olympic championship.
You also mentioned in your speech that you had little time for developing friendships whilst you were training and competing. How much of a sacrifice did you have to make to become a double Olympic champion?
Well, between physics, which is what I was studying, and engineering, and running track, that's pretty much what I did. I have a lot of good friends from college, but I missed a lot of the social aspects of being, the third, fourth year in college. I really didn't do that. After I came back from the Olympics, though, I had a different kind of life. The kind of travel that I was able to do. I was still running in the fall and autumn when school got back in, going back and forth to Europe. I had opportunities and activities that no other student had, and that was the reward side of it.
You obviously have a scientific and academic background, and you were very much a pioneer in many of the high-performance disciplines that are commonplace today, such as nutrition, physiotherapy, physiology. How big a role did your background play in allowing you to be as successful as you were?
I think it played a huge role. It was a way of thinking, a way of analyzing. As one of my mentors that actually competed in London in 1948, Mr. Herb Douglas, he won a bronze medal. He said strategize, analyze, initiate, and follow through. And those are 4 processes that, as an Olympic champion or someone in any field, doesn't have to be sports. It can be music, art, law, medicine, whatever. Everyone has to use those 4 concepts in order to be successful. And that's what I did.
How much of a regret was it for you at the time, and looking back on your athletic career, that you weren't able to compete at the Moscow 1980 Games because of the US boycott?
1980, I wish I was able to compete. I was able to run a fantastic time that year. I broke the world record in the 400 hurdles, lowered it from 47.45 down to 47.13 in 1980. So I was in the best shape of my life 2 weeks before the Olympic Games. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to go. But who knows what would have happened had I gone to Moscow, won the Olympics. Maybe I would not have hung around for 84. Maybe I would have. Maybe I would have been psychologically burned out and not had the incentive to do as well in 83 and 84. Things could be completely different. So the way it happened was the way it happened. And I still had quite a long career after that.
You mentioned that you won your second Olympic gold at the Los Angeles Games in 1984 in front of a home crowd. With Scotland having the Olympics on our doorstep this summer and then hosting the Commonwealth Games in 2014, how much of a fillip do you think it is for athletes to receive the vocal backing of a home crowd? How much of a boost was it for you?
To receive the vocal backing?
Of the home crowd at Los Angeles.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. When the UK team walks into the arena at the opening ceremonies, it's unimaginable as a member of that team. It will be an experience you'll remember for the rest of your life, because the crowd's going to go wild. And I'm talking about people from all over the world, not just the UK people. Everyone stands up and cheers when the home team comes into the stadium. And that's just going to be something that you will want to remember for the rest of your life.
You also used your scientific background to help develop anti-doping control for out-of-competition random tests in amateur athletics, if I understand correctly. What is your feeling on whether or not an athlete who has been caught, should they be allowed to return to competition or not?
They always have been. I mean, that's the rule. If you have a positive drug test, you do your penalty and then you come back. That's just the way it's always been. So, and I believe in that.
Scotland is a country of 5.2 million people, thereabouts. The US is a nation of some 300 million. Do you think that if we have the correct infrastructure, which you've already mentioned in your speech that we do have a good infrastructure in Scotland, that we can realistically compete with the sporting giants like the USA?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to compete with a country like the United States because our sporting infrastructure is just so massive, and it doesn't really depend on, we don't have like government controls. We have private institutions that may do what Sports Institute of Scotland does, but we have thousands of universities that have facilities, tens of thousands of high schools around the country that have facilities and have an organized structure of competition. So that's something that's unique to the United States. But Scotland does have a tremendous amount more than most countries on earth in terms of facilities, great food, people are not starving. You don't have people who are waking up in the morning and their main concern is, do I have enough food so that I am able to train? You don't have those kind of issues. The weather's not totally bad here. I mean, it's not like you're in a country that's, 37 to 45 degrees every day. So there's a lot of advantages.
Yeah.
The water's clean. You don't have disease. You don't have to worry about things like malaria. So Scotland is in a good position relative to some of the countries on earth. And some of these small countries are lucky enough to maybe have an athlete that goes to a college or university, learns how to train, becomes a great athlete, and hopefully if they study sports, be able to give back. So it's continuing that cycle of having people in sports that are able to learn and absorb and get higher education degrees and learn about physiology or medicine, psychology, and bring that back to the sports system here in the country.
Incredibly, for the last 3 years of your athletic career, you were suffering from a ruptured disc. Despite that, you managed to win a bronze medal in the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Do you think if you'd been diagnosed and then treated properly, that you would have been in with a chance of winning a hat-trick of Olympic gold?
I think I would have competed better had I known. If there was something that I would be willing to do as in the peak of my career, to a ruptured disc. I don't know. There's not really that much you can do. I don't know if I would have gone for a surgery to repair it. I doubt seriously. But had I known that it was a ruptured disc versus treating it the way that I was, I probably would have had better results, possibly. But it wasn't the disc that was hurting, it was the muscles, the nerves and the muscles that were bothering me. So whether or not I could have found a solution to clear up 20 different cramping muscles, I don't know.
And finally, you mentioned your 16-year-old son has a talent in football, basketball and volleyball, and you discussed a little bit in your speech about how athletes from one discipline or one sport can change to another. Do you think that you could ever have succeeded at the level that you did at another event in track and field or even in a different sport?
I think I could have done it in several events, from 800 meters to 400 meters and in the high hurdles as well, had I chose to focus on those events. I was multi-talented, and even as a triple jumper or a long jumper, I think I could have done well. In high school, I was a very good triple jumper. When I was very small, I was the best in the state of Ohio. And I was by no means the biggest guy out there. I was a boy competing against men, but I knew enough about technique to be the best. So And I don't believe in pushing kids like my son. He will determine what sport that he really likes. I would never push him into track and field. I think it's unfair and can be cruel because in athletics you have to push yourself beyond some physical threshold every day if you're going to become good. And he loves volleyball, and I've learned to love that sport as well.
Edwin Moses, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.